So what's neat is there's a
Hi,
number of
Sam.
people who know each other. So Ramya and Sam and I know each other from our work day, and Peter and I knew each other from our old work day at Indeed. And so glad to have all of you here.
Yep.
So
Peter and I are a very exclusive hair club, so
that's true.
That's
that's
right.
Yes,
Less exclusive all the time, seems like.
I'm trying to get there. It just keeps
just
do
work harder, Will. Just work harder.
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly it. Okay, so what we're gonna do today is we're going to build something if you want to. If you have an extra screen, it'll be a little bit easier because I will walk you through and show you how to do this. If you haven't set up accounts, that's okay. We'll walk through that. If you're not able to build right now, the recording will be ready available later. But the purpose of today is yes, you will have a practical workflow that you can evolve. It will not be the most amazing email processing, though it has been kind of fun today to watch a bunch of my emails get processed and even drafts written for me that I could potentially send if I wanted to, which is kind of nice. But that's what we're going to go through. But the biggest part is to actually to go through the process of building an AI automation. And this one's actually a little bit more agentic in the sense that the prompt lets the AI decide a couple of things. So we'll also talk about some safeguards or limitations to make sure that it doesn't run amok. That's one of my I saw an article about this recently of people hooking up AI agents to email, and it was just automatically sending things. And so someone would put something in, and then it would auto send it, and it was just spreading all sorts of things. That sounds pretty bad. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Has anybody ever built any of these automated workflows, whether it's Zapier or Make or N8N? Today we're going to use N8N.
Use Zapier,
I
but
once
more rudimentary. Yeah.
So Sam's done Zapier. Ramya, what have you done?
I didn't do it all by myself, but using Relay
Okay.
on one call, and I would build some automation.
Okay. Cool. Victor, hi. It's good to have you. Um, awesome. So today we're going to start by building one in N8N. And so let me get a few things open for you and show you what it's going to look like. Let's see. All right. So that's the site. Let me bring over the actual finished product-ish. We'll see if we can get through as much of this. If people want to keep going, I will keep going. If you need to drop off at some point and you're like, hey, I've gotten the basics, that's fine too. This is what a workflow will look like towards the end. It can feel like it's a bit, but all it is an email trigger. It does some processing of an email when it comes in, and then it gives it to an agent. Hey, Chris, glad to have you.
Hi.
And we're just getting started. You haven't missed anything. We're just kind of talking about what we're going to try to build today. So, but we'll get an email and then we'll process it with a prompt, and then we'll take some of that data. This is sort of the analysis of the email. And then we'll give it to an AI agent that has all these cool little tools, and you can add more tools to it and expand on your prompt of what it can do. These tools are things like mark an email as read or mark it as unread. If it is processed and they want to turn it back on, it'll create a draft of an email, which is what I've been doing. It has calendars. So if there's something in the email that says, hey, we should find availability, you can check availability on your calendar or even create an event on it. And then it logs everything that we're doing to a Google Sheet. And then finally, it just adds a simple label to the email saying, hey, it's been AI processed. So we can look at it. So that's what we're going to try to build tonight. If you've never done this, that's okay. I will give you all the steps to get through as much of this as we can. So let's get started with the basics, though. The first thing you're going to need to do, we're going to need to pull this off. We're going to be using two primary tools, three, I guess, if you include your Gmail account. N8N is a workflow automation tool. Lets you have lots of capabilities, very similar to sort of Make and Zapier, but it also gives a little bit more power of what you can choose to do. To get started, if you go to N8N, which I can put in the It's pretty short, but I'll put it in the chat in case you can't see the screen. And then you'll have to click on the Get Started. It is a paid service, but it has a 14-day free trial that does not require a credit card. So you can sign up for the trial, and then if you decide you don't like it, get rid of it. But you can definitely sign up. You don't have to put anything in. And then when you go through that process, so if I do this in a incognito window, when you get started, it'll ask you a couple of questions. Maybe. I don't even know what my registration token is, but yeah, it'll ask you a few questions here. Make sure you're actually the real thing. Start 14 days. Then it'll ask you for a name of your organization, I think. That's going to be, so if you look at my workflow, you'll see it's Brightly Ventures. That's because that's my business. So that's what I named it. And so whatever you want to call it, you can make up whatever name you want. That'll be your URL for where your things are. No one's really going to see it. Doesn't really matter what you choose. But yeah, if y'all are going to go along with it, go ahead and let me know when you have gotten your account set up. It should be just a couple of screens. They'll probably send you an email to verify some things, but I believe you can get in pretty quickly with that.
Will, you mentioned kind of like safeguards, and I'm curious just from a like privacy concern type of lens, especially for my primary email. Is there any risks of it running amok and too bad in
So
your
yeah,
personal
that's a great
Gmail?
question. So whenever you connect any of the services, it will give you the choice of what things is it allowed to do. And you can choose what access permissions it has. So you don't have to give it everything. For this, you need to be able to pull or read messages. There's a set of them. But in terms of the actions that we're taking here, when we look at this flow, just to give you an example, each of these tools, so this one has the ability to connect to this account using message and has the operation of mark as read. So this node, all it can ever do with messages, given the message ID, is to mark it as read. It's very limited in that choice. And so if you don't want it to have additional, like if I were to add, from a security perspective, I add a tool, I have to choose what it can do. If I never give it a send tool, it can't ever send messages. If I don't give it a delete tool, it can't ever delete messages. So as long as you don't add those specific tools, even if you gave the credential itself permission, if you don't add the specific tools, it doesn't have access to those specific nodes for API calls. But you have control in multiple places. You have it when you... Go ahead, ask your question.
And does N8N, what information does N8N store? Because let's say I have my luggage password in my email,
Yeah,
which is
so what you're doing is you're using Gmail's OAuth permissions. So just like any other place where you've used or given permission to a service that might integrate with Gmail, it will have access to use to do that on your behalf. Does that mean that N8N in their systems could technically pull those tokens? I don't know. I could ask Peter, might have a better answer of even what's technically possible when you do that, because he's a much better engineer than I am. I don't know if that's technically possible.
I guess if it's got permission to read your emails, and it's processing them there, on their own server, then I guess they can do anything they want at that point. If they want to store it off or squirrel it away somewhere for future hacking, I guess they could do that. So yeah, I guess it kind of presumes you need a certain amount of trust in N8N if that processing's happened N8N side.
Yeah.
I don't know where the processing happens. Will, is it happening within the N8N servers, or is it happening within the local environment?
I think what you're authorizing N8N to do is to make the calls that you're setting up as you. So just like any other like any mobile app that you use and you give it certain permissions or access to things, that's what you're choosing. So if I go through this process and I want to add a particular account, if I were to add my Gmail account, what permissions do I give it? So here's the process. So read, compose, send, permanently delete. You can choose which level you're doing, and you could choose not to do that if you want to, or any of the tools, and then see how far it can go. So good question. The exact thing of what they could do, I think technically whenever you authorize a tool to do things, you should definitely have a certain level of trust of whether you're okay with it. So does that help? Maybe a little
Yeah,
bit.
I tend to be more conservative into like browser wide access and
Totally.
Gmail integration, but I could play around with it in other email accounts.
Yeah. I mean, I started this in my like business my business account, which doesn't get a lot of email other than a bunch of newsletter stuff. And I turned it on to like pull one email at a time to see how it would respond. So that's how I am testing this as I go. Um, and so yeah, I think that's a very rational thing. Is I'm not ready to turn this on to my full-time day job email account and start sending it yet,
mhm.
because I'm still playing with it and figuring it out. Right. I don't think I would launch directly into the mayhem of all of your accounts yet. But
It is worth noting they are German, so if that's
at least you
helpful.
know the origin of the company.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean,
yeah. So, all right. Anyone? So let's see. Did I just change something here? Oh, send a message. Oh, that's because I was showing you the example and I didn't give it permission. So I don't want to be able to send a message. So I just delete that tool. Okay. So does everyone who wants to be working along, did they get their N8N account set up? Are we good to go?
Yep.
All right. Okay, so when we start, I'm gonna move this one off to the side. Actually, no, that's fine. I can do this here. I have another one on the other side. Okay, when you come in, you should be looking at something like this, but probably doesn't have any of these. Is that about right? You have
Yep.
an empty spot. So what we're going to be doing is creating a workflow. So we'll start from scratch. When you create a workflow, this is your blank slate. Okay. These workflows are created with nodes. Nodes have all different types of settings, but all of them have to have a way to initiate a workflow. So this is your trigger type. So the idea of each of these nodes, we'll go through the settings. We'll talk through those. But you have to start it with a trigger. And to start a trigger, we'll click on the first step and you can have some choices. So you can trigger manually, which means you just click the button and it will start. You can click it on a schedule. It's kind of like a cron job if you like those type of things, or just recurring every day, every hour, every month, whatever it is, your choice. So that's like on a schedule. Let's say you were doing this for a business and there was a web form that was coming in. You wanted it to trigger on the web form. You can actually have a form submission. Or you wanted to do a chat bot. You can have a chat, and when you type in a message, it will then trigger on that. You can also have tools. So like if you're a Telegram user, which I'm not, but this is one of the ways that I could see using this, because there's a lot of easy ways to make private bots on Telegram. You could have it on your phone, so you could kick off a whole workflow from messages that you send for your special bot. Like I have a recipe idea. So you take a picture of a recipe and the whole workflow gets the ingredients, stores it somewhere, adds it to your shopping list, right? Like those could be workflows that you could create. But today we're going to use a Gmail trigger. So you type in Gmail and you can set it on message received. So that's how we're starting this one. When this opens up, there's three parts of this, the interface here. The left side is what the data coming in on a trigger. You just have to like start the data. Then the middle is the settings for this particular node. And on the right side is what it's done once it's executed, what it's supposed to do for this particular node. By the way, if anyone has questions at any time,
sorry.
just speak up.
I think we all need to connect credentials because I'm not
Oh, that's
seeing
right. So if
fetch
you don't
test
have
event.
this, you're just going to show you that you don't have these settings yet. So the first thing you'll have to do is create a new credential. That credential, what you'll do is if I do a new one and I edit this one, it will pop up for signing in with Google, since this is a Gmail one that we're using. If you use another email provider and they're included, you're welcome to use that as well. But you would sign in with Google. It'll pop up a window. If it doesn't pop up, your browser might be blocking it. So you have to enable the pop-up for this moment. Choose your account and authenticate it. And when it works, I'll do this one here in just a second. Continue. I didn't give it enough permission. So it should then come back. Let me show you what it looks like. I paused, hold on. There you go. It'll then come back and it'll say account connected once it's working. You all been able to get that done? Yep, got a thumbs up from Sam. Chris, you doing all right there? Okay. I'm reading lips, seeing thumbs. That's good. Victor, you good there? Awesome. Okay. So now once you have your credentials, thank you, Sam, for calling that out. Once you have that, you can set how often you want it. Every minute could end up putting you in, like you may hit some limits in terms of what the Gmail API will allow you to hit. You might get throttled back. So I would suggest doing something every 3 minutes or so. The problem that I have is not every 3 hours. The problem I have seen with this flow is that if you get emails that are right minute after minute, it might miss one for processing. So that's a problem to solve in the future of looking back and finding any missed messages and that kind of thing. But for now, this just gives you the idea of the basics. And then there's some additional filters that we can set of I only want to pull unread email addresses. So let me show that again. So you just hit add filter and do read status and unread emails only. That's what we're trying to do. I was thinking that processing the unread emails is what I want. If I've already read it, I don't really need it to do something. You can definitely set a number of things if you'd like. The other is we're not going to simplify the message because we want all of the details. And then the other thing that I found is there are particular label names or IDs that help me get through some of the mess that can be in a Gmail account. So this way you can make sure that it's tagged with sort of unread and inbox, which might help you get rid of some of the things that are filtered or tagged as spam or anything else that you don't really want to necessarily process. And then you can test it out. So this is going to pull one of my emails, and there it is. Gives all sorts of details about my email. I don't even know what email this one was. Ramya, this is one from you. This is great. This is one that it was not really from you. It was from a comment on Real Builder Lab. I got notified from Circle from your comment. So we're going to use this one as an example. So I got a notification that you had sent a message, and now it's in my my inbox, and now we pulled it. So, all right. Everyone here so far able to pull a message? Seem to work okay for you? Okay. There's another.
And sorry, quick question.
No,
The labels and the label names, it looks like it's an all, like an and kind of, and unread
yes.
and inbox.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yep. And that's one of the things that I would love. Like Gmail's process of label names or IDs is really not awesome. I think I lost like 2 hours of time last night because the actual code names are like this label right here, label 910112331. Like that's actually displays as AI processed, I think. And so that's not helpful to have those labels, but this works fine. Okay. The other thing in N8N, as you're building this workflow, each of these nodes will pull some data. And if every time you have to repull the data, you don't always get the consistency. So what can be nice is that you can pin the data when you're building something. So if I pin the data here and I go to the next node that we're going to build, I don't have to repull an email again. It's just going to keep using this data here. So I get to keep using this as my test data. So you can just pin it and leave it there. And you'll notice when we go back to the canvas, it's got the little pin there. If you want to run it again and get a different message and unpin and repin, that's fine. You can do that when you want, but it's as you go, I'd suggest that you run it, pin it when it's working, and when you're ready to go to the next node to build, just as a tip for how you're building these things out. Okay. Any questions on that before we move to the next node? Because the next one is we're going to connect another account, which is OpenAI. This one, if you want to do it, this one does require money, requires a minimum of $5 if you want to do that, not to me, but to OpenAI, so you can use their API calls. The models we're using are pretty cheap, so that $5 will last a fairly long time. If you want to use a different model, and maybe you like Claude and you already have API credits there, or you have Grok, or you have Gemini, I'm sure that you could connect it very similarly. So just an FYI. But everyone good at this point? All right. So we're going to open up. They have lots of different types of nodes you could explore. Someone did one of these the other day. Someone was asking, how do you know where to go? If you have a workflow you want to build, putting it into your LLM of choice and telling them you're building this, it'll give you a pretty good start of how to build these. And the reality is there are a ton of places that will give you the workflows that you can download. I will send you the JSON of the finished one that you can import into here if you want for yourself. But I don't think that really necessarily helps you know how to build them. So I figured we would start building it ourselves. So the first one we're going to add here is an OpenAI node. And this is messaging a model. So it's a text action. And let me go back so you can see it. And when you add that, because you don't have credentials, it's not going to show yet. It's not going to show all your options. So when you click into it, you'll have to create a new credential, but you don't have credentials yet unless you have an OpenAI key. So let's talk about how you do that. So if you, when you go to OpenAI, if you go to ChatGPT, it's not the same thing. You want to go to their core company.
Sorry, well,
yeah.
One other new user experience, there's a message that comes up if you're brand new that just says claim 100 free credits, which I was able to press and bypass.
On OpenAI?
On N8N, right
On
above
OpenAI,
where
yeah.
your credentials things shows, on my end it said
Oh,
press
nice.
here for 100, and then it just auto-populated N8N free OpenAI API credits.
Cool.
Yeah, I got the same. Yep.
So if that's the case, that's even better. I like it.
And then it says we have access to certain models, like I don't know which one you plan to use, but it's got like GPT-4o mini, text embedding 3 small.
That'll be perfect.
Okay, there you go.
So we need, because we're going to use an agentic one, we might need an O3 or O4 that can actually execute some of the thinking of what it should do. So some of them won't allow you to add tools. Like 4 won't, but I believe 4.0 might, but if not, O3, O4 will, and hopefully those will be allowed. So let's see how we do it. But okay, so if you click on that, you get free credits. Is everyone good? You have OpenAI connections now. Yes? People are cranking along. Chris, you doing okay there? Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to send you all a link and we'll walk through this in just a second. So let's see. In chat. I'm going to send you a Google Doc and I'll show you what it is. But the doc, this has just a bunch of details. This will give you copy and paste prompts for what we're building today so that you can copy and paste it in. But I'll also would love to walk you through some of the concepts of this. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to go as in depth as you'd like. But this has the final prompts of where we will end with some notes over here, kind of comments of make sure you update these because this is for my business. So if you do this in your email, it's not going to make any sense because you don't have some of the messages that are coming through for me. You should change these, but the formatting, the concepts of this are the same. And some of the code ones you won't want to change. So like leave these alone. As long as they show up green in N8N. And I'll show you what that means in just a minute. But okay, if you have the document, let's keep going. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're configuring a message with OpenAI. So you have your OpenAI account credentials, you're doing a resource type of text, you're messaging a model, and now you can choose from your list. Do you all have, let me see, I want to make sure that I'm choosing the same model that I used before. Hold on just a second.
We have 4.0 mini, 4.1 mini, and 4.1 nano.
Okay. I want to double check what I used before to get the response and see if I would recommend anything different. You don't have 4.0 latest, but you have 4.0 mini. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that should
4.1
probably
mini.
work fine. Let's try that.
Okay.
Okay, let me get back to the one we were working on. Something that's important to know about N8N, if you don't save and you close out, what you've changed will go away. It doesn't auto save everything. At least it prompts you now, but make sure that you save up here if you haven't done it recently. Okay, so you said you had 4.0. You said 4.0 mini. Mini. Okay, cool. Let's see how it goes. So there's lots of different models. If you choose to go forward with this, it's worth looking at which models are better for what things. 4.0 mini is a really cheap model. So if you went into OpenAI, and so I'll log into the platform just so that you can see if you get your own account and get your credentials so that you would know how to do this. There's a couple of things that you would need to know is you do have to create an organization. And then inside that organization, you have to have a project. It'll default to a project. And then you can go to your profile. I'm doing this so that you can always come back to it later if you decide to do one. And then you can get API keys. So when you get API keys, I'm not showing these. If you ever have an API key where that secret is public and recorded, you should get rid of it later, because if anyone else chose to freeze or pause the screen and use the key, they would be using your credits on your dollar. When you create a key, so I'll do this right now. I will create a key. I will say my test key to delete for my default project and create a key. It will show this key, and this is the only time you'll ever see it. There's no way to go back and get it, so you copy it and you use it. Now, I created this key. If you ever have a key that gets out there, you go and if you try and see your key, you can't do anything with it other than to change the permissions. But you can also delete it. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to revoke the key. And now anybody who has that key who took the time to copy it, they won't be able to use my credits. Okay? So that's where you create your keys. If you're ever finding some, there's a couple of other things that give you some safety. Sam, we were talking about how do you create some limits of things. I recommend if you do choose to fund an account that you do not, particularly when you first start, don't turn on auto refresh your budget. Make sure that they're only taking your money when you give them the money. These are, so if you look here, your 4.0 mini model, this is your token limit. You can have 200,000 tokens. This is more complicated than I would necessarily want to get into. Just know that it's a lot. And when you get into, if you look at the billing and you want to take a look at their different pricing by models, you can get down into how much does it cost. So like a 4.0 mini is 60 cents per 1 million input tokens. That's a lot of tokens. So we should be okay. I don't know if those 100 tokens will actually get you very far depending on how big the prompts are with the email. So it might break, but at least you're connected so you can at least walk through the steps. But we'll see. Any questions on that? I know that you're not everyone's setting those up, but I just wanted you to all see it in case you needed it. You all good on that right now? Okay, cool. Okay, so now when in this node, you have the opportunity to set both a user prompt and a system prompt. So if you look in the document here, the top for this OpenAI prompt, this is node 1. The user prompt is right here. So this is like what you would put in if you're used to using ChatGPT, but this has a little bit of copy and paste code, and I'll kind of walk you through what that is. But you're basically telling the model, analyze this email, and then you're giving it the email details and telling it to consider sender reputation, urgency indicators, required actions, and business context. So I'm going to copy this from this document. And I'm going to put it in here. And fortunately, everything turned green. And I'll explain that in just a minute. And then the role is user. You want to keep that one there. The way that this works, it is no code, but you do have to sometimes drag and drop some things. So if you want to pull the data from the left and use it in here, these are variables. So this is using the address. So if I wanted to find the term address, I can kind of search for it. And then if I were to click and drag it over here, it just gives me the code for it. So this is the email address. This is who it's the from or the to values. And then you can put your subject in the body. So this just gives the prompt the data that came from the node beforehand. Okay. And if you didn't know that you wanted to look for the address, you can just scroll through the data and find the things that you want to do. Since we pinned the data, it will always show the values as well. So you can kind of see what would be here. Okay. Everyone's sort of following that so far?
Following, except mine are red.
Okay.
Should I be replacing this?
Yeah, if it's red, did you copy and paste from the spreadsheets?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I would suggest that in your if you go back to your Gmail trigger, did you leave simplify on or off?
How do you open the Gmail trigger?
You just double click on it.
Oh, double. I have simplify off.
Okay, and okay, interesting that it's red. Okay, so the way you can fix it, that's totally fine. So what you're going to look for, Sam, is if we're in this window, and when it's in expression mode versus fixed, it'll have a little expand window here in the bottom right-hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's look for the address field. So if you in your search over on the left, type address, and it should filter down. And this is we're talking about the from address. So take your from address and click and drag that into the spot where it was red. So if I had this typed wrong, it would turn red like this. So take address, put it in before or after, and then delete the red. What is yours reading now? If it's not JSON from?
Mine is just JSON from. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then it turned green.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
I don't know if others have the same.
You don't have the value 0 address? Okay.
I do not know.
Okay, cool. Well, I would just fix the from and then the name and subject and body until all of them are green. Cool. So that way, and then over on the right, you should see what it should look like as a prompt. Is it showing object? You see how on the right it's showing the actual.
Yeah, no, it's populating the right thing.
Okay, perfect.
On the right. Yeah, I just have to replace the things.
Okay, good. Wonderful. Let's see. Where did I? Hold on just a second. Oh, so then the next thing that we're going to build is the system prompt. So the system prompt gives it more details of how to operate instead of giving it the initial message. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit add message, and you're going to change the role to system. And then you're going to steal the system prompt that just to the curly brackets, not to the options. We'll worry about setting those in just a minute. So bring that, copy that over, and paste that in the prompt. And this one doesn't need expressions, but to be able to look at the big window, we can kind of look at this. There's some things that you might want to change. So this is something that I was just playing with as a prompt of what I want the output to look like. If you change these labels, then the rest of the copy and paste will also break, similar to what Sam was seeing, because this is how it's going to give the output, the structured output. But conceptually, what I'm asking it to do is to analyze the email and decide to categorize what type of actions should be taken based on the content of the message. Should it be an action type message? Is it an archive, or is it just informational? And I'm giving it some details. I would say this is an area where the more if you use this, the more you change and iterate on this prompt, the better it might be able to target and classify your messages. So this is a place that's ripe for additional system details. You could give it some background messages on what you typically get. You could change your priorities. You could change how you want to categorize it. So if I wanted to push further, let's say I'm getting a bunch of invoices and I want that to be its own categorization. I could put anything involving money or invoice or bill or whatever. I could give that a different type of category in the details here, and then include what those choices are here. So you just change the label or add to the label. Okay. Is that all following pretty straightforward? Sam's like, no, not at all. That's okay. That's good. That's what I'm asking.
Least technical here.
No,
how did
good.
you get to this window?
Oh, perfect. Okay. So that's a wonderful question. So here I hit add message.
Yep.
And I changed it to system.
Yep.
And then
weird.
I moved it to expression so that I could, or up here to expression so that I could expand the view.
Okay.
If it's fixed, it doesn't give you the expand view. It's really strange to me. But as soon as you do the expression, even though if you're not using code, it just gives you a nicer window to look at it. Okay.
And there's no green stuff in this case, right?
There's no green stuff in this one because it's all just fixed text.
Cool.
All right. Now, there's a lot that you could do here, but this is just to get us going. So what this is going to do is it's going to take the email that was in that user prompt, and then it's going to use this as guidance for how to process it. And then there's a couple of other changes we want to expand on here. So we want to simplify the output so that we don't need the raw data that comes back because we want it to be structured with what it's going to give us. And the output content is in JSON. So yeah, Ramya, go ahead.
Yeah, although I'm not hands-on, I'm trying to follow what you're showing here. Well, I see a good use case because in Gmail, we just get dumped with so many unnecessary where we can filter out what we need. But I want to know, should we have to provide the exact email address to perform this operation, or any tags or some like wildcard search, some names if we can provide, will that work?
Yeah, so you could give it specifics if you wanted to. So one of the things that would be an option is if you had, let's say, priority VIP people, you could create a list of, let's say, I wanted to say always VIP would be Sam at X, and then Peter. And I could add all of you, right? Like I could put you in there, and then every one of your messages would always be that. If you wanted to add those unique things, you're like, I always know that when my accountant emails me, I need it to be seen as urgency is high, VIP is this, whenever it comes from that. You can add those details, but you don't have to do that on every message to catch it all. It's going to try, just like if you were to copy and paste every email into a ChatGPT and ask it to process and validate what is this message and classify it. That's what it's doing. So it's going to do the best it can with what you give it. The more details you give it, or the contexts that are important, you can tell it that and it will use that. Otherwise, it's going to make sense the best it can. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, so when I run this, I haven't told it anything about the incoming email. Well, this email came from Circle based on, Ramya, your comment that you made and it triggered. So I'm going to execute the step now. Oh, sorry, not yet, because there's a couple of other settings that we need to make. You can add options. You can do maximum number of tokens. You don't need a lot of tokens, but if you only have 100 tokens, you might want to keep it pretty low. I don't know how much it'll come back, if it'll be enough. When I was doing this, because I wanted to have plenty of room for things, I put it as a max tokens of 100, or sorry, 1,000. And then the other change that and honestly, I wasn't sure. I asked ChatGPT, hey, as I'm doing this, what are some of the options that I should change? I'm familiar with what some of these settings are, but I also don't feel like I have to be the expert on all of it, because I can ask it for what I'm trying to do and why. So I changed the temperature, the output randomness, to 0.1. So the lower the number, the more consistently it will deliver you the same thing. The higher the number, the more creative the model will be in its answers. This is not something we want it to be highly random in. We want it to deliver structured data reliably. So if you ever are not sure, you can choose an option and then hover over the question mark. So lower the numbers, less random. So those are the settings that I did. I'm going to go ahead and run it and see what comes back. So what it's doing is it's taking the data over here on the left. It's putting it into that message, into that ChatGPT message. And it's coming back with, and putting both the system and user prompt in there. And then it's giving me back a response. So if you like JSON, it looks as JSON is what it's telling me, but if, whatever the view is here. But here, the reasoning, so what it's telling me is that the category is action, the urgency is medium, is action required? Yes. Sender importance, this is automated. These are all things that we could choose to do something with, because it was reading this message. It was automatically generated from a Circle message based on Ramya's actions. You can look to see if there were any red flags. There weren't any. Draft needed is false, meaning that there's no response necessarily needing to be written. And then this email indicates that a comment was made mentioning the recipient requires a response in the community. This necessitates action from the recipient. These are all the things I want it to do so that later on, I can make changes in the email and I will then respond to it. Because if it needs me, I can't have the bot do it, right? That's the whole point. So that's when I ran it. So do you follow how that happens and how the GPT is sort of trying to process the email? Does that make sense? Sorry, I hate that question. Is there anything I could expand on that statement to clarify anything?
Well, I was just going to ask, so I ran it on mine, and of course I've got a different email, so different results, as you'd expect. The reasoning there, is that what essentially the OpenAI email processor is telling you why it's doing what it thinks it's done?
Yeah, so I gave it reasoning, a brief explanation is the instruction it gave here. So if you read through the prompt, you're an email processor, analyze the email and provide a structured JSON response for automated processing. I told it to be conservative. When uncertain, use review required category, and then gave these. That's all I gave it, though. And then this is all the details. So the more detailed you give, it might give you a different reasoning if you change these things. But that reasoning, what its output is between the system prompt and the user prompt, which is analyze the email considering these details. And then it's giving me the output that I told it to give me, which was a reasoning behind its decisions. And so it's basically giving me a summary of why it did what it did. That's what I wanted that so that I could try to understand how it's interpreting my email so that I could figure out how I could improve my prompts as I go forward.
All right. Yeah. Like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Peter, did you get a similar output? Because my output is completely different.
Quite similar. I got all the categories. Mine was in action high, and there's action required. Like, so I had an action email as well because it happened to process the email from Google saying somebody's access to your account because I just set up N8N.io with access to Google, right? So Google's like, hey, are you sure you wanted this access, that sort of thing. So it's treating it like kind of urgent, and that's kind of an important thing. And that's what the reasoning says. It's like, hey, this email indicates a security alert regarding blah blah blah. So I mean, I really enjoy back some years ago actually already, but I guess doing some ML stuff, we were doing this processing and it would come up with like, this is the answer. And you're like, well, how did he come up with that answer? It's like we had no insight whatsoever into why, like the machine learning is, found a fit and said, here's the answer, but you couldn't actually back into what the logic is that it used. So having this brief reasoning explanation is really nice, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sam, you got a very different response.
I did, and I realized it's because I had maximum number of tokens default set to 16, and then when I changed it to the 1,000, then I got a whole different, more robust
16
response.
is not a lot of tokens. Token is roughly equivalent to like a word. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So process 16 words and tell me what you think. It's like, well, that's not a lot of words to to work with.
I think it can only return 16 tokens, so it would actually just give you a very very short JSON.
Right.
That's what I had.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's a good note. Chris, are you trying yours? Did it work okay? You don't know? You're muted.
There we go. I'm sorry. I tend to make a lot of noise on these things. This stuff is all brand new to me, so I'm pretty much just trying to get some sea legs here.
No, it's all good. Feel free to ask questions. I'm happy to answer. But Sam, when you updated tokens, you got a good response. Chris, have you or did you not get a good response?
I haven't even touched the thing.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, I'm just pretty much observing at this point.
Okay, awesome. I love it. I'm glad that you're here. Sam, what did you get this time?
Well, I was going to say I actually got the green values. I went back to your original ones and picked a different email. And when I switched emails, like there is a JSON subject with a uppercase subject that was previously being pulled. When I switched emails, I was able to match your lowercase subject and from value address and body stuff. So, and now I have, and then secondly, I do have something that says this email is welcome message providing information about the N8N platform and resource available during the trial period. No immediate actions required, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so it's coming back. It's filtering through. Okay, awesome. So there were a couple of things that I built into this that we're not going to get into in depth. I had actually built a much. I got carried away last night when I was redoing this and I was practicing it. I actually had a code node that was doing a lot of some of these safety checks of things, but then I ended up going to an agentic model, which I didn't. It's already doing a lot of those things, so it was duplicative in that sense. But it's coded, which means it's more guaranteed to run consistently because it was just JavaScript. But I said this was going to be no code, so I found a version without it. But there are things like confidence scores. You could give it some details of how confident is it in these things. And if there are too many signals that its urgency is high, the confidence is low, the importance is high, then all of it's always going to move it and route it towards like human review. So those are some of the things that you can build into these to be a little bit more mindful that you're not just sending something without some checks and balances in that. My view is also to just be very careful as I first start on a very small scope and watch and observe carefully with what I'm doing. So just as you're building these things out, don't just assume that all the magic that the AI gives you is going to be amazing. Don't let it loose on your email build, but with a little bit of caution. I think my view is it's not about zero risk. It's about risk management, deciding which things are worth trying. But sometimes we're going to try some things to learn things, and then we manage how much risk we're willing to take and what's its return on that. So that's more philosophical than the whole N8N adventure, but I think that's valuable as we're all trying to build something out. Is it's not about zero risk. It's just the risk that we're willing to take. So, okay, let's get back on. If you've gotten a response, if you pin it, then it won't process another email, and this is what it'll work on. So don't forget to pin the data here. And we'll go back to the campus. Okay. The next one. The next one's the big old hairy agent node. So this is where they're used to, this wasn't always around, but if you hit the plus sign and you do AI agents, it looks like a little robot, because this robot, you give it tools and then it decides what to do. So before, the one we did before was it's a prompt. We give it the prompt, it injects the code, it runs the prompt, it gives us the output. This one is different. This one, we're going to tell it what we would like it to do and what tools are available, and it's going to decide which tools to use. So, which can feel a little scary because we're not going to tell it exactly what tools to use. But the first thing you're going to do is you get the AI agent and you choose that it's going to not be connected with a chat, but with the defined below. So you can give it a prompt. Okay. And then you go back to the document. And here is this really big prompt that you can use that has a bunch of stuff about me. But you can make some of your changes. These will be fairly straightforward changes. You can change your business or your personal. You can change a couple of what we do, or you can delete these things for now if you don't want those things. The key parts that you would want. So I'm going to take all of this. And I have sample examples of what it would draft messages for. Obviously, I wouldn't suggest you sign all your emails as will. I think that'd be really confusing for people. But copy all the way down to the bottom of the document. That's the last thing that comes from the document here. And you would put it in the prompt. And it's an expression. And some of the naming things are not working because you don't have to go and edit all these just yet. Gmail trigger 1. So that's because I named this one differently. If you change this to 1, and then save and go back in, I think that will fix it all. Yay, everything's green again. Okay, so green is good, red is bad, meaning that it's not actually pulling your variables. But let's walk through this and we'll make sure that everyone gets their stuff fixed. So first thing first, you're an email processing assistant for Sam, for Peter, for your business if you want it to be. Bye, Ramya. Thanks for being here. I'll post it probably by tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. I'll have it ready for you. All right. Hey, people still good to keep going?
Thank you.
All right. As long as you're still going, I'll still be here. If y'all leave me, I will finish up the recording for whoever watches later. Okay. So the business context, this is because I wanted to give the agent some idea of what to focus on in my inbox. So my Brightly Ventures, it used to be a land and real estate investing business. Now I do coaching and I have this community. So I just gave it some context. I'll be honest, I didn't write all this. I went into Claude. I said, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Write me some business context for this prompt, giving it some of the details of what I wanted. And it formatted it for me. It formatted some of this for me. I was like, great, that works well enough. And I will evolve this over time. I'll give it more details of what I want it to focus on, that kind of stuff. But conceptually, the things that matter, using some of the markdown signals like the hashtags and the stars does actually help. From my understanding, the LLMs appreciate the organization of data and the signal of what's important. So using some of those in your prompts can help. So we're giving it some context of the business. Then we're giving it our variables. The email analysis results, so that happened from the prompt we used before. We're giving it the category, the urgency, the action required, confidence, and reasoning. Then we're giving it the email details from who, the subject, the date, message ID, and thread ID. We pull those because we want to later use those in tools so it knows which message and which thread to respond to. And then the email content. So you're giving the message in text form to the LLM to process. This can get really big. So if you don't want it to necessarily have the full context of the email and you just wanted to give it the reasoning, or if you wanted to add prior a summary, you could do that. And that way, if someone sends you a really long email, it doesn't blow up your tokens within your API call. So that's an area that you could control and adjust. It's just a little bit more sophisticated than I thought we could get to today. There's actually a node that covers a sentiment. I think it was the word that they use, a sentiment analysis one. And then you can put that in there and it will try and give you a summary of things. I'm not doing that right now, but you can if you want to try and be a little bit more thoughtful about the tokens you're using. So if you're doing it with a lot of email, it could be an issue. Just something to be mindful of. And then we get into processing rules. So before I get into processing rules, are any questions on business context and the email? This is just automatically building a prompt for you. You're doing all right with that, Peter and Sam and Chris?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm following along what you're doing. I'm not able to get mine to go to green because of I tried to go back and edit my trigger to be Google Trigger 1, but it didn't fix things. So I'm still red, so I can't go farther.
I just renamed my JSON and took off the 1. Just instead of Gmail trigger 1, I deleted the 1, and then I was able to get them to green in case that also helps.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, that's exactly. I kind of tried to do that step 2, so I went back and renamed it back to Gmail trigger and tried to rename this one to Gmail. And anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so some parts are not. I won't be able to follow along in here, but I can follow what you do on the screen anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, getting them to green is the key thing because that way it'll actually put it in the prompt. But conceptually, you can pull over from these. You can always just drag them over if you find them. So you can always go to what your previous node's data was. All of the data from the previous nodes is available, and you can click and drag those things in. That's the part that you would want to consider here. If it's got a different pathing, sometimes the JSON could be in a different structure. And as Peter, you know, if you don't have the right structure for referencing the variables, then they don't show up. But green is good. Okay, so let's get into processing rules. So the processing rules is me trying to tell the agent what I want it to do and in what steps. So the first thing was determine the action. I wanted to figure out what actions it needs to take. So look for these keywords or patterns. And so I was looking for things that are relevant to the Real Builder Lab and the community. Always mark these as unread and a draft response. The reason I'm giving it this direction is I want unread messages in my inbox so that I know to pay attention to them. If it's been processed and they've marked it as unread, now I know I still need to look at it. Makes it easier for me to find. Same thing with coaching, executive leadership, strategy growth, mark as unread and draft a response. Invoice, mark unread and note action needed. I actually think this should be an update of, I could do like draft a response, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want this to flow. I kind of want the AI to just drop a draft into every message that it needs for me to do action as a way of communicating with me so I don't have to go look up somewhere else. But I'm still playing with that. We'll see. If it's real estate, property, land investment, mark as read and draft a polite decline. Great. Now I can just tell people, take me off your list. I'm not doing this anymore. It's been years. Same with newsletters, mark read. It doesn't need to draft a response to these. No actions are necessary. So I'm just giving it the details. You could expand on this list, be more specific if you want, test out what works, what are the different flags that you're looking for. Step 2, mark the status. So now you're telling it to use some tools. Mark as read any of these, mark as unread anything requiring action, follow-up, or a response. Just giving it some instructions of what to do. Then draft response when needed, and it gives it some sample messages for different categories. So if it was a support request or a coaching inquiry or real estate declines, one of the things in prompting, telling the AI what you want it to do, what's good looks like, and what bad looks like is really helpful. Do this, don't do that. Those two things are really helpful for the LLMs to give you much better responses. If you only tell it what good looks like, it doesn't know what bad is. And so give it those boundaries and it will play much nicer. You'll get better responses. And then here it's going into meetings requests. That's because I was experimenting with the calendar piece. If you're not going to do calendar, you can cut any of that stuff out. Totally fine. If you're not going to have it, you can draft it without sending. That's what I'm doing. I'm not ready for it to send anything for me. So I'm just doing drafts. And then the critical reminders. This is at the end. You always want it to use the thread ID when it's doing a draft message, because you don't just want them in your inbox and have no idea what it's about. You want it attached as a response to that message. And then you can give it some additional details like, this is my highest priority. If the confidence is less than 7, be careful and maybe suggest a call to clarify. I don't really know about that one. This should be more like write a draft, but give it a warning to the author to read the draft carefully. I don't know. You could do all sorts of things with that. And then I tell it which tools it has by telling it what use message ID for mark as read or unread. And then for creating a draft, use the thread. Calendar, you can check availability, you can create an event. So processing that. Any questions on the process part? Sam's not sure what question to ask. I can see it in his brain. You good?
No, I'm good. I'm just, I guess is there a way to tell what it would do based on this?
No, not yet. We haven't added any all
okay.
the tools yet, right?
Cool.
But conceptually, what you're doing is you're telling it that there are tools and that it should do things. But it won't do it yet because you haven't attached any of the tools. So you have to attach a couple of things. And the attaching things is actually a little bit simpler now. So first you have to attach a chat model. So this is where we would choose OpenAI chat model. And you'll use your same credentials that you had before. And whatever model, what were you using before? Is there a 4.1 mini available for you all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep. So leave it at that. And then you don't have to put anything else into that. We'll see if it will work. I don't know if 4.1 mini will work. We will try it in a minute. Do you have any O models? Like O3 mini?
O mini. 4.0 mini.
Sorry, anything that starts with an O as the first letter.
No.
Okay, so let's just try 4.1 mini and see what happens. We'll see if it will work. It may or may not. I'm not sure if 4.1 allows for tools, but we'll try it out. If you were doing a chat or something that needed to keep a thread of conversation, then you would want to click memory and add simple memory. In this scenario, you don't need to do that because we're not running a thread of chats back and forth between you and the agent where you're chatting back and forth and it's doing things for you. So you can leave memory empty at this point. And then for tools, this is where we're going to add the different things we want it to do. So we had talked about marking something as read. So you would add Gmail and you would choose the account that you're using. And you would choose operation of mark as read. And when it says message ID, you hit the fancy stars and let the model solve the problem for you. It will bring in the message ID from what was sent in. That way it's handling it all the time. And that one's set. And if it uses that tool, it'll know what to do. And so then you add more tools. So we add Gmail. And we want to add another one for message is marked as unread. And we hit the little stars defined automatically by the model. Back here. And then if you wanted it to write messages, then you would add to, I want it to draft. There we go. Under resource, draft. Operate, create a draft. Subject, let the AI decide. Email type text if you want, or you can change it to HTML if you want it to write HTML. Message, let the AI decide. Okay. Let's see. I don't think there was anything else that I'd said. Oh, you could also make sure, this is the other place. You do the thread ID and you let the AI decide. So it will inject it into there for you. Okay. And then in terms of other tools, if you wanted to add the calendar, you'd have to create the credential for the calendar as well. You can create, if you don't want it to mess with your existing calendar and you wanted to see how it works, you can go into your Google Calendar and create a calendar of just for this. So I created an AI calendar and shared that one, or like from what, like the calendars that it has. So I have an AI calendar, and that's the only place that it can put stuff on there. And you can let everything else be. I would not do this one on the calendar. I don't want it to have access to all the calendars I give it access to. And then let the AI decide the reminders and see if you get pinged 18 times. Who knows? Could be fun. But you can choose to do create events, and then you can also add one for availability if you wanted to do availability for a calendar. I don't think calendar is super important, but it was something I decided I wanted to try this morning. So I added in the same calendar, changed these things. I haven't had it successfully do anything with it at this point. What am I doing? I'm choosing, I don't need additional fields. This is for calendar. Yeah, this is right. Nope. I think it's calendar availability is what we're doing. And that's all. Because I'm using AI calendar, it's not going to show when I'm not available because I'm not available on other calendars. So it doesn't really matter. But at least if it booked it, it would find times. Okay. So a lot of these things are happening now. So I don't want you to get through all of your tokens. I'm not sure, like I said, how long it would run. So let me show you what would happen if I run this now. So right now it has the email. It's already processed the email. And now we're going to send this into the agent. And you're going to see these wheels turn. And we're going to see what happens. So it's thinking, and now it's going to decide how it should use these tools. And so it chose to mark a message as unread, and it chose to create a draft. And I didn't tell it which one of those things to do. It did it based on the message. So if I were to, let's see if I can open up that email that it just processed. I think this is it. So let me move it over here so you could see. We'll see if this is exactly the one that it did. I don't know, because I had another one that was from before. But in my email, it marked it. That was from one before, so this is probably not it. But it wrote a draft for me based on this message. She was asking me about why did I choose to put videos on TikTok in a comment, and it wrote back a response. I don't think it got it right, but it's an interesting start. And so it's actually a start to how could I give it more guidance on what I'm doing and what my tone of voice is. Could it draft some of these where I could be pretty close to just saying, oh, make a couple of changes and hit send, and then it's good to go. That would be great to have a bunch of my email be faster to process that way. So let's look in the nodes and see what it actually did. So you can click into these and it will show you here's the message. And then let's see if it has, didn't tell me what it wrote. But it saved it as a draft. Okay. So, and then here you can go into some of its history and say, okay, the email mentioned this is what we should be doing. Prompt 0, completion 0. So these tokens, this could use up a lot. So that's something that you want to be mindful of. But that's how that runs. But I felt, and that's where I started. But I didn't feel like I had any idea of what it was doing. I wanted more visibility into what I was doing other than looking in my inbox, which my inbox is messy, but I will be shamed, which is totally fine. I don't think there's anything. Let me double check. Nope, I don't think there's anything on this screen that would matter in my inbox for a moment. Let's see, sharing. So you can see how I've been running this for the day, the one that was official. And so all of these were like AI processed. And it told me, it tagged it. That's something that we haven't added yet, but that's where the flow would go. And then I can actually just filter all the ones that it's done. So you can see this is probably the one that it just recently drafted. So I could see the drafts it's created here. I don't know how many different drafts it has, but there we go. So that's how it's like, it's starting to write some of these. And we can decide to use them or not. But okay, how's everybody feeling? Are you ready? Are you feeling like this is enough? Do you want to keep going? The other steps would be saving it to a Google Sheet and tagging it with a label. But we're way past time already. So let me pause there and see.
I probably need to go dinner calls and children call and all that sort of thing.
Yep,
Being in Central
totally.
Time, probably started after dinner for you. But all that said, no, I mean it's super great, Will, and yeah, it's really exciting to see how in a very short amount of time you can kind of get moving and get something up and working here. And I was going to ask, did you generally when you're first starting, I was like, I don't even know what to do next here. Do you just kind of use some of the chat GPT or ask questions and to figure out what to do next, or
Absolutely.
just go poking around and exploring at what's available? Like, I mean, seems like when you go to add a node, suddenly there's like 1,000 options. I mean, obviously you search for something because you know what you're looking for, but if you don't know what you're looking for, you could get overwhelmed very quickly. So yeah, how do you kind of approach that?
There's a couple of things. There's one place that I find pretty helpful. This is another guy who's AI Automation Vault, and he just posts automations and projects. This is free community. He's got 7,000 members. He posts a lot of these on a regular basis. You can kind of look at their classrooms. You can look in, let's see, if you go in their community and go in their questions. Some people will post these. I think in projects. Let's see, I think I found one. I don't always know exactly where to find the things. But if you get into some of these, they will sometimes share their flows. So let me see. I thought I had here their YouTube builds. Nope, community builds. N8N questions, projects. How do you get into? Let's just go there. I thought, oh, classroom. Start here. Oh no, N8N builds. It's right in front of me. If I would just click on the thing that they had here. Okay, here you go. So this is one where you can see these are the custom built templates. There's a guy who's been doing this for quite a while. So I got some help from this when I was looking at the email inbox manager. But if you see this, this is a pretty involved piece with a text classifier, adding different labels, running different AIs, and then doing things. I think that's a great place to get to. But that's not a good place to start with a bunch of people who've never built anything. Sure. But it gave me some ideas of, and then as I did them and I realized, okay, some of these are more complicated than it's really worth. Let's just cut some of those out. So that's part of it. I do think that's one thing. The other is if I were to, let's see, let me just stop sharing and just reshare a different window real quick. And I will, there's a number of, so here's Claude. You could use, I use a number of tools. So I like to use a bunch of different ones. But let's say it was Claude, and I just said, I want to build an N8N, N8N workflow that will process my emails and draft responses. Give me an overview. Don't build the whole thing. Ask me questions. Or no, I won't worry about that part right now. And if you tell it not to build the whole thing, it won't build it. Otherwise, it could build a JSON structure that you can download and import. But a lot of times the documentation is outdated. And so it builds old nodes. So to me, that's more frustrating. So I prefer for it to give me some ideas so email ingestion, classification. I was like, okay, now give me the nodes and outline of the flow, not in JSON. JSON would be what you could copy and paste in. So now it's giving me some names I can use. Email trigger and retrieval, Gmail trigger or IMAP node, Gmail node if using triggers. So now it's giving me some details of what to look for. Initial processing, a code node. So then if I go in there and do a search for code, then it gives me an idea of, okay, I want to clean the email content. These are some actions I could take. I don't write the code, by the way. If this is what I was going to do, my next thing would be for the code node, write the script to remove or to clean the email content, extract the, or actually you could just copy this, right? I was like, so write the code node, write the script to do all this, and then ask it to write it. Now, it will sometimes get it wrong. And so then when it gets it wrong, I go into N8N, I run it, the script gives me an error. I take the error and I copy back here and it says, you got it wrong. This is what the error was. And then it'll rewrite it and fix it. But I'm not writing this JavaScript. Like I've always hated JavaScript. And so N8N will actually let you write in Python, which is a little bit better, but I still don't want to write it. This is a lot of stuff to type. I don't want to type this. I mean, and I have a degree in computer science, as you, Peter. Like, I don't want to type this anymore. Like, why would I want to push all these buttons?
It's like Sam has to drop. So
yeah.
Thank you, Will.
Sam. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming in. But yeah, so this is how I start. I do a prompt for it. Sometimes I have to tell it, hey, this is way too complicated, make it easier. Or but you can do some really crazy prompts. Let me share again that community that I was in and see if I can find some that are there's some, let's see, master social scraper. Okay. So when a chat message is received, text classifier, and then you're getting Reels transcripts and YouTube long transcripts. And like, you can then have these things call other things. Like it's possible to do some really involved workflows. Proposal generator, that one looks pretty simple. Content ideas, sales assistants, the copywriting agent. And this guy does a great job. His videos are wonderful. I recommend if you really get into the agent space, these can be great. This is one that's really intriguing to me, is using N8N to generate AI-generated videos that are faceless, so it's not me, and could be used from a marketing perspective. So if we're thinking about as we build businesses or business side ideas, one of the hardest things now is how do you get people to pay attention? So if you can build some tools that make it easier to get attention to drive traffic, not saying that it should all be fully automated, though if you can, that's great. Makes the burden of that a little bit less. Like this one's 30 days of content in another 3 minutes. And then you can decide what you do with those and choose to execute on those. That's what I think this is really valuable for, as whether we're trying to turn an idea into a side income or to a real thing or just a hobby and find 50 other people who want to hang out and do it. We only have so much time in the day. So let's see if we can make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But awesome. Well, I think that that's a wrap. I'll send out some of the documents. I'll send out the full JSON of what I finished up with that actually saves it into Google Sheets, and also would tag it as AI processed. I think it is semi-useful. I think that with some effort and iterations, it could be even more useful. But the biggest part for all of you was just to realize that you can come up with some ideas to automate things and try it out. Get your hands dirty and get in there and build something. So.
Yeah, nice.
Awesome. Well, Peter, go feed your kids. Tell them I said hi. I will see you soon.
Edelyn says she misses you, by the way.
She still remembers you. I will come and visit soon.
She's like, when's Will coming back? I'm like, I don't know. But she's like, I miss Will. I'm like,
I know. One weekend is all it takes.
I know. I tell you.
It's great. It's great. So, well, Peter, thanks for being here. Chris, I hadn't met you. This is great. I think we have a connection in through maybe Josh. But I'm glad that you came. Did you have any questions that I could answer for you?
I have nothing right now, and I gotta say this is all totally brand new to me, and it was a nice and kind of gentle intro. I appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. I'm so glad you could be here, and that's exactly what I want it to be. Is it can be daunting when you have to do it all alone. So, Chris, as you're exploring, if you decide that you want to go further with it and you have questions, just reach out and ask. Be happy to help. I've been trying to do more in the community and share what I'm doing each day. So earlier this week, I went live and I vibe coded in Lovable for about 50 minutes. My sister jumped on to help me troubleshoot some of the use case because it was for her that I was building it. And then the next day, I finished building it a bit offline, but I shared a video of kind of what I built in a period of a couple of hours, which replaced a $70 a month tool that she is needing. And it's going to cost $10 a month to run it instead. And it took just a few hours to build. So that's like very, very nice savings and value. Now I just need to get a couple other people to pay $5 a month for it, and then it's actually free. So that's even better. But yeah, that's my plan, is to try to do as many of these builds, pricing, business ideas. I don't care where you're going. If you have something you want to talk about around a project you want to build, this is a place to chat about it. So on that note, why don't we call it a night?
All right. Thank you so much, Will.
Everybody, thank you so much. Go forth. Be awesome. See you later.
Bye now.
Bye.